Breaking news out of Clemson, South Carolina, namely Pickens County, which that's where Clemson's located. Clemson University is suing the ACC over grant of rights. We knew this moment was coming. Most of us felt like it was coming, maybe a little sooner, but it is here. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. We're going to talk about this in just a second. It's a big deal. It's massive. There's a lot of things going on here, okay? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of he said, she said, this, that, and the other. No, that's not the truth. That's a lie, blah, 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 blah. Now, I want to go ahead and let you know that before we go any farther, I have put an article in the chat section here. So if you're like, I want proof and I want a source and I want a source for your source and proof, that's great. I'm glad, but it's just like the other day when I broke news that Ryan Day was at Clemson instead of Columbus, Ohio, and no one in Columbus knew that Ryan Day was actually in Clemson. Dude, it got personal. Like, there were people who were acting like I had went up and punched their baby in the face. And obviously, I didn't punch their baby in the face, but they acted like it. And then once I proved to them that, yes, indeed, he was in Clemson, well, they still didn't want to apologize. So anyway, I am actually going to put this in the comment section as well, or the description below the video. So you can click on it. You can read it for yourself. It should be there any second now. So here we go. I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this from Bleacher Report. Clemson has become the second ACC program after FSU to file a lawsuit against the conference. I'm going to skip a few things. The school is suing the ACC over its grant of rights and the forcibility of withdrawal fees. By the way, you can in this, you can actually see the lawsuit. It talks about Florida State suing for the $130 million withdrawal fee. We scroll on down and see Clemson's main argument in its lawsuit is the ACC is preventing the university from pursuing a wide range of strategic alternatives that may be necessary for its continued success in collegiate athletics and as an institution. Okay? You can read the rest of this for yourself. In fact, I ask you to do that. So let's talk about, there's just a lot to process here. Now, I want to start off by telling you that Clemson and the university, they were part of signing this agreement a long time ago. And Big John, who's in here every now and well, he's in here every video, and if he can't make it, he always comments afterwards. He made a very good point. I don't like it when people sign contracts and then goes, why did you sign? Yeah, I signed that contract. What do you mean? What do you mean? I signed the contract. You mean I actually have to abide by? I agree with you, John. I agree with you 100%. I don't like that. Which should make us question the leadership of not only the ACC, we should question the leadership of every university who put their John Hancock on this contract. Also, I want to let you know that there's a lot of moving pieces to this subject. You're like, why? Well, how many of y'all remember that not only the grant of rights was a topic if Clemson wanted to go to, say, the Big Ten? You heard about that AAU or whatever it is. You heard that that was a requirement for so long. You did. You probably heard it. Well, I had a few people come on my channel and go, oh, the Big Ten said that's no longer a requirement. Never has been a requirement. Was it because it never was a requirement, or they did exactly like I said they were going to do and waive the requirement because there's billions of dollars at stake? I think that's more of what happened, but I'll get off of that subject. You need to understand that lawsuits are expensive. I had a friend of mine who got sued. I promise it was not me. He got sued, and he was actually the victim. He was victimized by someone, and they turned around and sued him. And to get out of the lawsuit, his lawyer told him, said, listen, you can win this thing. But it's going to cost you a ton of money. To win, you're going to majorly lose. So he told him, said, look, let's offer them a settlement of about $50,000 because it's going to cost way more than that to win it, which, by the way, you can win. It's just going to cost you everything. It might bankrupt you. And so he took the $50,000. See, the ACC is very wealthy. Well, to a point. But what happens when all its members start suing it? Clemson might have dragged their feet, but I mean, and I was annoyed by that. But the truth is, maybe, just maybe, Clemson was waiting to get their ducks in a row. Maybe they know that someone else is going to file another lawsuit because you have to have a group of lawyers in Clemson, South Carolina now for the ACC. They have a whole other set of lawyers down in, Florida. If someone else sues them outside of the state, they got to have a group of lawyers there. Heck, if they have someone who sues them within the state, they have to have a set of lawyers. Could it just be that the plan of these schools is to overwhelm the ACC with lawsuits because they're so flippin' expensive? Maybe so. What's another angle? We talked about this last week. ESPN holds the right to end this whole contract, renegotiate it, however you want to put it. Someone's going to get caught up over my verbiage. Verbiage was wrong, but does it mean that they would renegotiate the contract? Well, yeah. Well, then you know what I mean, and you're just being a turd. So Clemson and the rest of these schools could definitely be appealing to ESPN. We want a different deal, man. I mean, this is like in that movie, Meet the Millers. You remember that? Where they're all standing outside of the RV. And they find out how much the dad is making. You remember that? You remember that? He was making like, I don't know, this right off the top of my head, like $500,000 for this deal. Jennifer Aniston was playing the mom. She's like, you're paying me $30,000 to pose as your wife and to go through this whole charade, which is dangerous. And then the daughter, who's played by Emma Roberts, she goes, $30,000? He's only paying me $4,000. And then the dumb son that was hired, poor kid, he was so stupid. He played a great dumb kid. He goes, y'all are getting paid? That's what the ACC looks like. I mean, really. From everybody from the top to the bottom involved. At the individual schools, shame on you, Clemson, for signing this deal. You've had a better brain, I hope, than to sign this deal. The people at the ACC, if you really care about your conference, shame on you. Why did you do that? Obviously, these schools need to be part of a more business-minded group of individuals, which just so happen to be the Big Ten and the SEC. So, I don't know how this thing is going to turn out, but I firmly believe. I say I don't know how it's going to turn out, and then I say I firmly believe. Okay, you should make fun of me for that one. Tell you what I think's happening. I think they're going to overwhelm them with lawsuits, and that only happens if a few more start jumping on. If the ACC starts getting sued by a bunch of schools, set your stopwatch. Set your stopwatch. It'll be that fast. If it's only a few schools, set your sundials. It's going to take a little bit of time, but they're going to appeal to ESPN. The only thing is, ESPN has its big deal with the SEC. Why would they allow anyone to leave the ACC and not go to the SEC? Why would they allow them to go to the Big Ten, who has signed a deal with basically every other network than the SEC. Or not the SEC. I see ESPN and SEC as the same. But ESPN/ABC. Why? Why would they let them out of the contract? It doesn't make sense. I'm going to keep my additional thoughts to myself. But good for Clemson. Once again, I hate to see it when someone signs a contract and says, hey, we got to abide by this. Yeah, you do, goofy. You've got to abide by it. But if you can sue your way out of it, I guess that's all right. I will say this to Clemson fans. I'll say this to Florida State fans. I'll say this to anyone else who joins this bandwagon of suing. You really need to question who is negotiating your contracts and who's making decisions, because they decided to sign this. And unless the other side was holding a child ransom, there was no good reason to sign this. You need better negotiators. Stop being drunk on how smart and how important you are. So much to the point that you fail to realize, and I'm saying this to the people who signed this contract, by the way. Stop being so impressed with how many degrees you have and how important you are in whatever community you're in at your university. Stop being so impressed by yourself that you overlook that you don't know what you're doing when it comes time to negotiate. Be a businessman, be a businesswoman, be a business person, however you want to say it there. And you need to put those people in charge, because obviously these people signed a terrible, terrible deal. And now it's going to the courts to have to decide it. So anyway, we'll see how this works out. Folks, drop a comment in the comments section. Let me know. What do you think? Where do you think this is going? How do you think it will end? Both sides have their lawyers. There's a lot of money at stake. Why am I right? Why am I wrong? What haven't I thought about? Please let me know. Also, hope you'll subscribe. Remember, it's free. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe. Pass it along to your buddies. More and more people finding out about the channel, and that's because of y'all. I do appreciate it. Good or bad, lawsuit or no lawsuit, it's always good to be a Tiger. Go Tigers.